Hey, welcome in. This is Kyle is Wonderful here with another wrestling review, this time AEW Dynamite from June 15th, 2022. And coming into the show, it looked like an amazing show. Wow, the card on paper just looked amazing. If you're interested, I did a quick pre-show slash dark elevation review just before the show went on the air. So you can find that on the channel. It lasted about 25 minutes, so not too long. If you want a nice preview of my thoughts going into this amazing looking card. But let's just jump right into it. We've got a lot to talk about, and it just went off the air, so I'm still got the adrenaline going. Let's get right into it. This is one of the many themed dynamites where they'll give it a special name attached to it and color scheme, and a lot of these become annual or yearly events. So we've got a bunch of different ones. This one's Road Rager, and it's live from St. Louis. And Road Rager, if you remember, was the big event to this is the 1 year anniversary from when AEW was able to go back out on the road and leave Daly's place and have a lot of fans in attendance for the first time since the pandemic. So that's what the Road Rager name is going to go be about going forward, is a celebration of when we were able to get back out on the road. So this is live from St. Louis. And like I said, a lot of really good looking card, We're about 2 weeks away from the big New Japan cross promoted show with AEW Forbidden Door pay per view. And we've had all kinds of news and stuff happening, such as CM Punk getting injured right when he won the title from Adam Page. We also had a lot of news come out of New Japan. If you're interested in finding out what happened in New Japan, go listen to my review. It's also on this channel. They had one of their biggest shows of the year, Dominion, just happened this weekend, where we got a new IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. Okada lost the title to Switchblade Jay White. So a lot of things from New Japan are translating over to Dynamite. It happened on tonight's Dynamite, and it will continue to happen on Dynamite leading up to the Forbidden Door pay-per-view in Chicago in 2 weeks. So I'm excited about that. Surprisingly, we start tonight's match with the hair versus hair match, Ortiz versus Jericho. And I guess it was kind of surprising to me that this was going to start it, but it makes sense. AEW definitely likes to have one of their most veteran or biggest stars or biggest names that people know as the first match. They try to get a lot of people watch that Big Bang Theory right before Dynamite on TBS network here in America. So we were getting a lot of CM Punk to kick off the show, and now that Punk's gone, it looks like Jericho's going to kick off the show. So it's Jericho versus Ortiz. Loser gets their hair shaved. We're 2 weeks out from the big blood and guts match here in my hometown of Detroit, which unfortunately I will not be able to make that show, but I will be reviewing it here on the channel. And so this has all been going on for a long time. Of course, Ortiz, a former member of the Inner Circle with Jericho, and now this has been feuding for months after Jericho has now created the Jericho Appreciation Society. Um, we've got Dasha as the ring announcer instead of mm, the Dapper Yapper. Why can't I think of his name? But it's the Dapper Yapper is out and Dasha is in. Dasha has plenty of experience, especially in AEW. She does a lot of the ring announcing on the Dark show, the ones that are taped in Orlando, Florida for Dark. So we've also got Regal on commentary, so that's going to be awesome for this hair versus hair match. Ortiz out to a good reaction, but Jericho out to a much bigger reaction, and I don't think it's just because they like singing the song. Jericho generally getting a good reaction here. Within the first 10 to 15 seconds, Jericho attempts a lion salt, so Jericho is taking this match very serious. He does not want to lose his hair. We've got all of Jericho Appreciation Society ringside, so that's the former 2.0 Cool Hand Ange and Daddy Magic, Daniel Garcia, and the former Jack Swagger, now Jake Hager, make up the Jericho Appreciation Society. They're all there. Eddie Kingston is down to accompany Ortiz, but I do not see Santana accompanying Ortiz. So maybe Santana just wanted to give Ortiz his single match here without taking away from it too much. And Kingston's out there to make sure there's no funny business. Moxley versus Tanahashi is confirmed as our main event at Forbidden Door at some point at the beginning of this match. So John Moxley versus Tanahashi will be the main event of the Forbidden Door pay-per-view. As we found out, Tanahashi beat Hiroki Goto at the Dominion event over the weekend, and we saw Jon Moxley last week win his chance. So that is confirmed to be the main event of Forbidden Door, Moxley versus Tanahashi for the AEW title. Going back to this hair versus hair match, really good intensity to the match, of course. They've been feuding forever, so great intensity to the match. We've also got confirmed for the main event tonight is the ladder match. So the ladder match between, well, that used to be, I should have started out the show by saying this, but unfortunately, Jeff Hardy has been arrested a couple days ago on a DUI charge, his third in 10 years. He might be facing serious crimes, and he definitely shouldn't have been behind the wheel. And it was inexcusable that he was in his condition. So, Tony Khan and AEW have reached out to Jeff, and they have suspended him without pay, and they've also offered to send him completely pay for rehab. And if he completes rehab and maintains sobriety, Jeff Hardy will be welcome back in AEW. But until that point, they will not promote. They will not show his likeness, promote him, or talk about Jeff Hardy in any way. And that is mandated straight from the board of directors at Warner Brothers Warner Brothers Discovery Media. So that was out of Tony Khan's hands as far as if he could have the Hardys on the scheduled match that they were supposed to have tonight, but that match just turned into Jurassic Express, the champions, versus the Young Bucks in a ladder match. So that'll be our main event tonight. And like I said, good intensity to this Ortiz Jericho match. Jericho with the line solved immediately, but it got countered, knees up by Ortiz. Jericho almost gets slammed on his head from he tried to look like a Frankensteiner from the top rope or something like that. It got countered into a power bomb, but a little iffy on the landing. Jericho just avoiding disaster there. They get a shot over at the barber on the outside waiting to cut the loser's hair. Looks a lot like Adam Cole, which was pretty funny. A nasty suplex off the apron to Ortiz at one point. I think it was a vertical suplex. Really good. We go to picture-in-picture ad break at this point. Good stuff during the ad break. Great match overall, good match overall, but Regal was great on commentary with just hamming it up. Regal is definitely living his best life, and I'm very happy for Regal right now. Just living his best life here in AEW and having fun. Now it's time for a lot of roll-ups and pinning combinations for close calls because both of these guys really want to get this match over with. There's probably a lot of pressure on them for any mistake, and they're going to get their head shaved. Ortiz tries a top rope maneuver. It looked like kind of like your whisper in the wind type deal. Chris Jericho moves out of the way, but even if Jericho didn't move, Ortiz would have missed him by a mile. So a little botched on that. Right after that, we get a code breaker by Jericho for a close two on Ortiz. Ortiz gets to the ropes after being put in the walls of Jericho for a little while. So Ortiz is just barely hanging on there, but Jericho seems to be in control. Everybody on the outside starts brawling at a point. So remember, it was all of Jericho Appreciation Society, but only Kingston was out there. So once all the big brawl on the outside starts, Wheeler Yuta and Santana come out to help to try and even the odds. They're still a little outnumbered, but we get a spinning back fist during all this commotion. Eddie Kingston gets in the ring, spinning back fist to Jericho behind the referee's back. Ortiz pins him, and I thought it was over. I thought Jericho was going to get his head shaved. I thought it was at least a small chance that Jericho could get his head shaved. There was a noticeable bald spot on Jericho during the Anarchy in the arena match, so I thought maybe he was going to be, everyone can see my bald spot, so maybe I'm going to shave my head now, but nope. Jericho somehow kicks out of this, spinning back hiss from Kingston. I thought it was over. Crowd is going insane at this point. Out of nowhere, Fuego del Sol is on the outside. He's got Floyd the Bat in his hand. I don't know why Fuego del Sol's here. And he comes in, hits Ortiz in the head with Floyd the Bat. And the match is over. 1, 2, 3. Match is over. Once you finally get a good look at a close-up shot of Fuego del Sol, you can clearly see it's Sami Zayn underneath the mask. He quickly unmasks. It's Sami Zayn. Or not Sami Zayn. My apologies. Sammy Guevara. Sammy Guevara is Fuego del Sol. He unmasked to be Sammy Guevara, the former member of the Inner Circle who left without being with it was kind of not too they didn't fight on their way out, but he left when Jericho told him to shut up. When Jericho started feuding with Santana and Ortiz. So Sammy Guevara is back. It looks like he's fully healed now. Crowd's booing him big time. And I think even at this point, Ty comes out, but maybe that was later. But yeah, Sammy Guevara unmasked, took the Fuego del Sol mask. Sammy Guevara cost Ortiz the match, and now Ortiz has to cut his hair. The barber comes in, but Ortiz and Kingston snatches the clippers away from him, and they grab a microphone, and Ortiz starts to cut his own hair off. And I had heard on Busted Open Radio today, Ortiz has been growing that hair out for 5 years. It took him to get that hairstyle. So 5 years of hairstyle work gone in an instant. Ortiz shaves his head. There was a little bit of blood, so it was a rough shave. He just did it anyway. While Kingston was on the microphone saying Ortiz is a man of his word, unlike you, and he holds the microphone up for Ortiz while he's shaving his head. Ortiz just yells over and over, "Blood and guts, blood and guts, blood and guts." So pretty good segment overall. It wasn't like a 4 or 5 star match, but it also had pretty good action, pretty good story to it. 3.5 stars basically, and good stuff overall. I'm really looking forward to the blood and guts match. It's in my hometown. I wish I could be there, but it's just impossible for me to go to that show, unfortunately. We get a video package after all of that. It's really well done. It's got like the song where it's like and it's got that kind of music, and where it's all talking about how Wardlow's getting sued by Smart Mark Sterling and all that. It was pretty well done, well produced. We've got Wardlow coming out. They've got like new music for him, so he's walking in the back. Within the music, it's got them in the music. It chants Wardlow, Wardlow. So Wardlow steps through, and I'm just gonna start calling him Warburg. I can't believe they're just literally making him a clone of Goldberg, which the Goldberg formula worked at the time and it worked somewhat, but in my opinion, even Goldberg got old for after like not too long for me, and I'm all this Wardlow stuff's already starting to get boring for me. So this match was going to be a 20 versus 1 handicap match. Unnamed jobber black shirt security versus Wardlow. I was assuming this was going to be a lot like the infamous Kevin Nash gauntlet match on WCW Nitro, the one where he just started jackknifing people, and every time he jackknifed them, that counted as an elimination. So we didn't even have to pin him. So I was assuming it was going to be something along the lines of that. It was pretty much what we got. What we got was a ton of power bombs and then like stacking people up in like groups of 4, like whether their shoulders were on the ground or not, they counted. He put his hand on top of the stacks, and then they would say like, plaintiff 1, 2, and 3, and 4 has been eliminated, and plaintiff 5, 6, 7, and 8 has been eliminated. After he does all this, it lasted way too long because it was just the same thing over and over, which is really just the same thing we've seen over and over all of 2022. I know Wardlow has a lot of fans out there. I'm not gonna like completely hate on the guy. I just think he should be more than a one note. Just have a one note thing where he does the powerbomb symphony, and we treat him exactly like he's Goldberg. So the Wardlow stuff's getting a little old with me. I hope he does some new stuff in the future. Of course, he's probably going to be fighting Scorpio Sky pretty soon and winning the TNT title. So hopefully when Wardlow wins the TNT title, he can have some better feuds and kind of just have like real matches and not just these big ass squashes where it's the same thing over and over. His power bombs are great, but I mean, I would say his power bombs aren't better than like a Psycho Sid per se. So it's not like he's the best power bomb I've ever seen in my life. And now I've seen him power bomb like 100 times in 2022. So it's very old with me, and I'm kind of over the whole thing. And I would rather see Wardlow in NWA, where NWA has an established super heavyweight division. Wardlow would have over 10 to 15 people around his size to fight against. in the meantime, I'd rather much prefer seeing him in matches against those guys than destroying the entire AEW locker room, which I fear will happen pretty soon. So I'm not a big fan of that. I was never a big fan of Goldberg. I was never a big fan of that type of stuff. Like I was never a Ryback fan, or of course Wardlow is better than a Ryback, but um, I'll give it a little bit more time and see if they start having him have real matches. But I don't want to ever see another Wardlow powerbomb, to be honest. Anyway, he wins the 20 versus 1 match easily. It doesn't last forever, but it lasted too long for it to be a one note thing. As soon as Wardlow wins, he tries to powerbomb Smart Mark Sterling, who is on the outside, but Dan Lambert on the microphone stops him. And I think he's up in the skybox. Dan Lambert is with Scorpio Sky. He tells Wardlow American Top Team will take him out, and we see that Tyrone Woodley and Matt Hughes, big MMA stars, are on ringside. They jump the barrier. They get in the ring. Tyrone Woodley and Matt Hughes, that is. Wardlow gets on the mic now and he says, "These MMA guys are from St. Louis, right? Well, we're all Midwest boys. We can either fight or we cannot. But I have a feeling we're cut from the same cloth, being Midwest boys. So this magically makes Tyrone Woodley and Matt Hughes not want to fight him anymore. And Woodley throws both of them, I think, throw Mark Sterling into Wardlow, who gets hit by something. I don't think it was a power bomb, but maybe it was. And American Top Team MMA guys raise the hand of Wardlow, and we go to ad break. When we get back, as soon as we get back from break, we hear FTR's music, and I'm like, all right, here we go. This should easily be match of the week once this was announced. This was a late announcement. They didn't announce this last week or anything, but it is Dax Harwood, one of the best wrestlers of 2022 by far, in the top 10 over a lot of other big names. Dax Harwood of FTR one-on-one versus Will Osprey, another person who potentially maybe not top 10 in 2022, but a top 10 in 2021 and 2020. So it looks like he's coming back from his injury, and I was excited to see if Osprey could have a real match here. Osprey did win the U.S. title on Sunday at New Japan Dominion, and pretty much a squash match over Sonata, where Sonata was also coming back from injury. And if you didn't know, that was actually Juice Robinson was supposed to be in that match, who was the champion, the U.S. champion coming into this match. Will Ospreay and Sonata also formerly had the title recently, but Sonata and Ospreay had injuries. Ospreay almost lost his life with a kidney infection 3 weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks ago now. And good thing they caught it just in time. Will Ospreay could have gotten close to his deathbed if that went any more untreated. And Sonata had an eye injury, but so clearly the U.S. title is cursed. They both had to drop the U.S. IWGP U.S. title because of that getting injured. And then out of nowhere, when Juice Robinson had just turned heel, Juice Robinson is now in Bullet Club, and he won the U.S. title recently. But now he is stripped of the U.S. title because he had to fly back home to America, and Juice Robinson had appendicitis, got his appendix taken out. The New Japan officials said it was going to be a singles match now. The two challengers that were in the triple threat are going to fight each other for the vacant title. They stripped Juice Robinson. Juice Robinson still had the U.S. title, which meant Will Ospreay won the title against the non-champion, and the title wasn't even there. So Will Ospreay again coming out, no IWGP US title in sight. He does have the Rev Pro British Heavyweight title around his waist. And unlike last week, they actually tell us on commentary, oh, that's the Rev Pro British Heavyweight title, which I knew, but you need to tell people these things on your television show when there's new characters coming in. So like I said, FTR music hits right when we come back from ad break. Dax is out. Big response. We're told that it's going to be a 20-minute time limit, and I could definitely see this going the full 20. Osprey out. No IWGP US title still, but he does have the British heavyweight title around his waist. I don't know, man. You definitely just have to go watch this match. It's definitely the match of the night. It should be the match of the week, no matter what else happens. I don't think Roman versus Riddle will top this, and then I don't think anything at the New Japan card over the weekend will top this either. So nasty chops throughout the match, but even at the beginning here from Dax to Osprey, so just some nasty chops. Osprey's chest is very red by the end of this match. We get dueling chants, so both are over with this St. Louis crowd. Osprey and Dax both getting chants, dueling. Dax sells a knee injury as we go to the picture-in-picture break. Even within the picture-in-picture break, more chops to the chest of Osprey. It's turning red, real big time red at this point. And so at this point, I'm thinking this is much more competitive than the Osprey versus Sonata match at Dominion, where I didn't know if that was because it was just because Osprey was coming back from a kidney infection and almost killed him, or if it was because Sonata had an eye injury. And maybe it was a combination of both. But I was excited to see that Osprey actually got to wrestle a real Osprey match tonight. And it must have been Sonata that still had a major injury with his eye, because that match was definitely a squash at Dominion. So a lot of back and forth in this Dax versus Osprey match. Crowd's fully into it. Bunch of close falls both ways. It easily knocks Seth versus AJ off the perch for match of the week. There's at least 20 near falls, all of which, so like 10 for Dax and 10 for Osprey basically, and all of which in a different way after a different big move or a different great pinning combination or some kind of mix between the two. But what a freaking match. We get a hidden blade at the end. Osprey gets the win. He looks fully recovered from his kidney infection. And nobody is really going to beat that for match of the week, in my opinion. We get some of United Empire now comes out. It's Aussie Open, and the Great O'Khan and Jeff Cobb, who at Dominion got their IWGP heavyweight tag titles back. So O'Khan and Jeff Cobb, the former Matanza in Lucha Underground, they're the heavyweight tag champs coming into this. I could definitely see them against anybody on the very deep tag roster. But it looks like it'll probably be FTR and Roppongi Vice in a three-way match. That's my guess against Great O'Khan and Jeff Cobb for the IWGP heavyweight tag titles. So, like I said, Aussie Open, Jeff Cobb, Great O'Khan out to get a beat down on Dax. Cash, of course, runs out, and then he's flanked by Rocky and Trent and then we get, so along with Rocky and Trent, another member of Chaos, the returning Orange Cassidy, comes out, and they all make United Empire clear the ring. So then Orange Cassidy and Will Ospreay, of all people, have a stare down in the ring. And we are, in fact, told during the main event of tonight's match that it will be Orange Cassidy versus Will Ospreay for the IWGP United States title. And definitely not my first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th pick for Will Ospreay to fight. I'm not very excited about this match. Hopefully, the comedy shit that Orange Cassidy does is very cut down, but if this is just like a total comedy match, it'll be a complete waste. We have seen in the past that when Orange Cassidy takes something serious, he can have a good match. So I'm assuming it'll be an all right match in the end. But I mean, I could have chose 20 people on the roster. I would have rather seen Will Ospreay fight. So that's a little disappointing coming out of tonight. John Moxley video package now about how he's hunted down a bunch of members of New Japan Wrestling, but it's been 3 years that he's been hunting down Tanahashi. He tells the whole story, puts it over the whole story for people that don't know how he's been wanting to fight Tanahashi for 3 years, but things keep happening where they aren't able to fight. Mox says he's currently the best professional wrestler on the planet Earth, and the face-to-face between John Moxley and Tanahashi is next. So another one of the big things we had on the card tonight, everyone was looking forward to John Moxley and Hiroshi Tanahashi in the main event of Forbidden Door, and they'll have their first face-to-face in a long time tonight. So Moxley's out, crowd loves him, and Tanahashi out. He gets another great reaction, almost as loud as the Moxley reaction. And JR's putting over Tanahashi big. If you don't know, JR's been calling Tanahashi matches for over 5 years on Access, as well as JR called at least one Wrestle Kingdom live. So JR has seen all of Tanahashi's stuff for the last 5 or 6 years, and JR loves Tanahashi. So really good of JR putting over Tanahashi without it being forced because he legitimately loves him and knows him. So we get they good stare down between Tanahashi and Mox to start out. Holy shit chant from the crowd just for the stare down. And it looks like Tanahashi's loving it. He's getting the crowd to chant even louder. So um, eventually Moxley is on the microphone. He says, finally, you're here, Tanahashi, after all this time. He said he's chased Tanahashi all over the world. There's a lot of titles in the world, but there's only one ace. And we get a huge Tanahashi chant from the crowd at this point, where Moxley has to stop talking and kind of repeat himself because it lasted for a while. He says there's more on the line than just the AEW title. Um, and then everything Mox has worked for 3 years is on the line. Tanahashi tries to grab the mic at this point, but Moxley pulls it back. And then he says that he will call Mox ace when this is all said and done. So before Tanahashi can speak, unfortunately, Judas hits out of nowhere. So that's interesting. Jericho's back out, and Excalibur explains real quickly that Jericho and Tanahashi feuded in the past. Jericho has Sammy Guevara with them, as well as Ty Conti. Sammy still has the Fuego del Sol pants on, which was funny. And Jericho gets on the mic. He says he's going to burn Tanahashi's face because he's a wizard. He brings up beating Tanahashi, and Tanahashi finally gets on the microphone and tells Jericho to shut up. And all of Jericho Appreciation Society, all 6 members, plus Ty Conti, rush the ring. And then they've also got backup in Lance Archer and El Desperado, of all people, out of Suzuki Gun, the runner-up in the Best of the Super Juniors that just finished a few weeks ago. El Desperado and Lance Archer from Suzuki Gun. That's Minoru Suzuki's stable in New Japan. And quickly, Excalibur explains that they all jump Moxley and Tanahashi. So that's what a 8-on-2 beatdown here. So we get an 8-on-2 beatdown. El Desperado, of all people, is on Dynamite. And Sammy and Ty are out there. There's craziness is going on. So after they jump, then we get told that Minoru Suzuki is going. Well, Jericho gets on the mic and he says, I bet you're wondering why I've got Lance Archer and El Desperado from Suzuki Gun here. Well, that's because at Forbidden Door, it'll be Jericho and Minoru Suzuki versus and Sammy Guevara. So the 3 of them versus Wheeler Yuta, Shota Umino, who he stops here. Jericho stops here and brings up. He beat Shota Umino's ass in front of his dad, which, if you don't know, Shota Umino is a younger wrestler, and his dad is the senior official at New Japan Pro Wrestling. They call him all by his nickname, Red Shoes, because he always wears bright red shoes as a referee. But that is his son, and Jericho beat him up in front of him in the past, which he brings up here. But then he reiterates so that it's going to be Minoru Suzuki, Chris Jericho, Sammy Guevara versus Wheeler Yuta, Shota Umino, and Eddie Kingston, because Jericho said he can't get enough of beating up Eddie Kingston. So this is just a few days after Blood and Guts. Eddie Kingston and Jericho will be in the ring again, and I'm assuming Wheeler Yuta will also be in the Blood and Guts match. So that should be great. That sounds like a great 6-man tag. If you're going to have a 6-man tag on the match, which you may as well, because 6-man tags are a definite part of the culture, and every card of New Japan has a couple 6-man tags like this. So glad to see that somehow Tanahashi and Mox clear the ring after all this, and then they stared down again. I didn't quite see how they cleared the ring. Maybe Yuta came down. I couldn't quite see what was going on, but at the end of the segment, it's just Tanahashi and Moxley back to staring down. So can't wait for that main event at Forbidden Door. Should be great. We go from that to a Darby Allin video package, which also has Red Dragon talking in this video package in a separate location. So just like I predicted, if you watch the pre-show and my Darkened Elevation reviews, it looked like we were going to get Darby Allin versus Bobby Fish soon, and we don't have to wait long. This Friday on Rampage will be Darby Allin versus Bobby Fish. Bobby Fish doesn't have a chance in hell after Darby has been losing a lot lately, so I assume Darby's going to pick up the win to start gaining some momentum, and we'll have to see what Darby does at Forbidden Door if he does anything. Excuse me. Now we got Toni Storm backstage with Tony Schiavone. Toni Storm says she dropped out of school at 16, but she isn't stupid. Kind of a weird line there, and I did not know that about her, but I mean, I don't really care. It doesn't bother me whatsoever either way. But she dropped out of school when she was 16, but she isn't stupid. And Tony Storm says she wants to. She says the whole world wants to see Tony Storm as world champion, which I don't know about that, but I wouldn't mind it per se. But I will probably be rooting for. We do find out later on it will be Thunder Rosa versus Tony Storm at Forbidden Door, so I will probably be rooting for Thunder Rosa, but I would not be surprised if Tony Storm wins, and I wouldn't go away like all pissed off if she wins either. So we get finally we get to hear the Ethan Page version of the Men of the Year music. We haven't seen Ethan Page fight very often. He did get a singles match on Dark this week. And if you haven't been watching Dark, they do things like Ethan Page got a big win to set him up, get momentum for this week. And like for the last couple of weeks, Ortiz has been wrestling singles matches and picking up some wins. So that's kind of how they play out Dark and Dark Elevation. Definitely make sure you guys watch that. I put it even if you put it on in the background while you do something else like play video games or write a report or anything like that you're doing. Put Dark and Dark Elevation. You can find them on YouTube for free. I watched both of them back to back, and both of them back to back is about an hour and a half of your time where it's not to be taken too serious. You can put it on in the background and just listen while you do something else. So if you don't watch it, at least come watch my pre-show every Wednesday before Dynamite comes on the air. I run down the card. I give my opinions about the card we get that night, and I also let you know what happened on Dark and Dark Elevation. Anyway, Ethan Page out to his version of the music. He's got Dan Lambert with him, but no Scorpio Sky. Miro's now out. Huge reaction to Miro. He's definitely over with the crowd. And they do a little bit of explaining about the New Japan Pro Wrestling side of the All Atlantic title tournament or whatever they're calling it. If you don't know, it's going to be it's basically a mini tournament in New Japan over this next week. I think it'll play out between the shows. There's a show on Saturday, Monday, and Tuesday for New Japan. So I will be covering all three of those shows on this channel. So come check out those reviews because there's things on there that definitely have to do with Forbidden Door, even if you're not a New Japan fan. So this little mini tournament is going to have we'll know by the next time Dynamite comes out who will be in the New Japan side for this fatal four-way match for the All Atlantic title. But it will be Hanma versus the only American representative in the entire mini tournament for this All American title, Clark Connors. So the only American representative is actually in the New Japan side, which is pretty interesting and fun. But Clark Connors fights Hanma. I'm assuming Clark Connors will probably win that match, but Clark Connors will probably lose in the finals of this mini tournament because I'm assuming it'll be Tomohiro Ishii that gets into the fatal four-way match, and Ishii and Miro in the same match alongside probably Malachi Black and Pac. And if it's not Malachi Black, it'll be Pentagon Obscuro. Sign me up for that. So the winner of that fatal four-way will be the All Atlantic champion. That'll again take place at Forbidden Door. But we don't know for sure. It could be Ishii, it could be Hanma, it could be Clark Connors. And I think El Desperado's friend in Suzuki Gun Kanemaru is the person fighting Ishii in the first round or the semifinals of that tournament. So I'll let you know what happens on all of that. If you're interested in watching these shows yourself, at least one of the shows over the weekend is going to be free for everyone without having to sign up. You can go to New Japan World or NJPW World.com and sign up. It's $9 a month, and it gets you. There is English commentary for most of these shows. Maybe these shows this week might not have English commentary, but it might. I'm not quite sure. But they mostly every single big show has English commentary, and even if you get into it past Forbidden Door, New Japan has the biggest tournament in the world, starting at a yearly tournament, and that starts pretty soon in only a matter of like a month, where everybody fights everybody in their blocks. So like there's 3 blocks of like 8 people, and they all have 7 matches against the others, and there's points, and it's really fun. So a lot to check out over at New Japan Pro Wrestling World, NJPW World. Go check that out. But So this match is a part of that. The winner of this match, I kind of have already spoiled it by saying Miro's in the four-way match. So Miro does pick up the win, but we all assume that Miro was going to win this match, which is unfortunate for Ethan Page, but at least we're getting Ethan Page in a singles match on Dynamite for once. So Ethan runs away and gets a cheap shot on Miro to start the match. So heel tactics there, and we quickly go to a pitcher-in-pitcher break. In that break, Miro gains advantage. We get like 10 beats of the Bowery, which I thought was interesting by Miro. Miro's sent into the steps for Ethan to get back in the control, and he puts Miro's hands together like this, and he says, "Pray to me," he says to Miro. So Ethan Page with some good heel work here, and Miro laughs at that, but then he gets up and destroys Ethan. But then Dan Lambert gets on the apron. Miro knocks Dan Lambert off. And then Miro just makes Ethan tap with the nasty modified Cobra Clutch. So he made him humble there. And then after Ethan Page taps, Miro puts Ethan. Miro does get down and pray to Ethan, but only after destroying him. But that was really funny. So it's going to be Pentagon versus Malachi Black next week, and the winner of that will join Miro and Pac in that fatal four-way for the All-Atlantic title, and more than likely Tomohiro Ishii will be the fourth, but it also has a chance to be either Hanma, Kanemaru, or Clark Connors. But man, Ishii and Miro in the same match, sign me up. That match would actually be disgusting, whether it's Pentagon or Malachi Black, since both of them are good. But I would prefer Malachi Black in that match. So imagine Malachi Black, Pac, oh my God, Ishii, and Miro. It could be the match of the night. And we get a little video package here. It's Dante Martin and Matt Sydal, his mentor. And they tell us on Rampage it's going to be Dante Martin versus John Moxley. And Dante Martin tells us that he's sick of every time he gets one of these big matches that everyone assumes he's going to try his best and show a lot of heart, but everyone assumes he's going to lose in the end. And he's tired of that. He's tired of losing the big ones, and then he's going to take it right to Moxley. So that should be a good match. But again, just like Dante Martin said, I assume he'll show a lot of heart, but he will lose in the end. So interesting that he brings it up, and a good sign of at least fleshing out someone's character and not making them be just this bland, whatever, no real life stuff behind it. So Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, is now out. She's been feuding with Toni Storm for a while, so we're going to get that one-on-one match here. Toni Storm's only loss in AEW, or at least singles match loss. She might have lost a tag match, but her only singles match loss is to Britt Baker, and I think that was in the Owen Hart tournament that Britt Baker ended up winning. Britt Baker comes out, no title this time, no Owen Hart title, so maybe we won't see that full time on. I don't think Britt or Adam Cole had their titles today, so they left the Owen Hart titles at home. And unfortunately, Dasha, the announcer, taking over for the Dapper Yapper tonight. Dasha is great. She had a great night, but unfortunately, of all people, for her to forget where that wrestler's hometown is, it had to be Britt Baker, the one wrestler on the roster that constantly talks about her hometown and calls it Britsburg. And clearly Dasha was like on her way to the ring and has to like pause for 5 seconds. She wasn't on camera, but I'm assuming she had to ask the referee what Britt Baker's hometown was. And after about an awkward 3, 4, or 5 seconds, she goes, "From Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania." And what's his name? Excalibur tries his best to cover up for Dasha, but quickly saying, "Oh, Dasha was just struggling because she wanted to say Britsburg." So good, man. Of all the people for you to forget, it's the one person on the roster that really puts over their hometown every time they talk and every time they're in their hometown. Anyway, unfortunate for Dasha. The rest of the night was great. She was even able to do the Ortiz. She's also does some work for the Spanish speaking announcers. So she is fluent in Spanish and did the Ortiz rolling of the R's that the Dapper Yapper usually does. No problem. So other than this little bit of fumble, which hilariously was Britt Baker's hometown of all things to forget, she had a good night. Fast and intense start to this match. Of course, it's Britt Baker versus Toni Storm. Britt Baker has Rebel and Jamie Hayter accompanying her, while Tony Storm is alone. We got a fast and intense start. And I write here, how long before we get the customary quick picture in picture break in every women's match ever on Dynamite or Rampage? Always quickly goes to a picture in picture break, but this one lasts 2 minutes. So 2 minutes before going to picture in picture break. In that 2 minutes, Jamie Hayter and Rebel had already distracted twice. So Thunder Rosa runs out and chases off Rebel and Hayter. So that's when we go to the picture in picture break. 2 minutes in, we get some good action, pretty good picture in picture break action, unlike most of the time or most of the people. So that was good to see. We get a Tony Storm German suplexes Britt when she tries to put on her glove. So it looks like Rebel or Hayter had come back, so they were trying to put the glove on Britt, but Tony gets German suplexes Britt. A nasty looking hip attack like the Usos do to Britt's head from Tony Storm, and it looked nasty, and Britt's selling it really well. I'm pretty sure that this is kayfabe and that she didn't legitimately get hurt like she did, but they made this look really good because the initial hip attack to Britt's head was nasty looking, and Britt collapses after they do get her out of the ring after checking on her for like 30 seconds, but it turns out to be a ruse, and Britt Baker almost gets the win. So clearly this was part of the storyline. The storyline here, and they did it really well. They kind of got me. I thought Britt Baker was legitimately concussed, but it looks like she's fine. It looks like it was all part of the story. The story here being Britt Baker pulled out all the tricks in the book, all her heel tactics, every heel tactic she had, but it didn't work. Storm 0 for the win. Tony Storm gets the big win here. Dr. Britt Baker just won the Owen Hart tournament, so she can afford to take the loss here. And this sets up, like I said, Tony Storm will be the number one contender and will fight Thunder Rosa at New Japan Pro Wrestling / AEW's Forbidden Door, which we were a little interested in seeing if there was even going to be women's matches on that, and I'm glad there is. So we've got our first women's match. I think it's the first women's match announced for Forbidden Door, and it will be Thunder Rosa versus number one contender Tony Storm. That should be a pretty good match. I'll be rooting for Thunder Rosa. Thunder Rosa looked like a major star this week. She had a pretty good outfit and looked like a star. Tony Schiavone's in the back now, and he's got Stokely Hathaway right there, which I had already predicted in my head because every time they do a women's segment, they then follow that up with the other women's segment of the night on Dynamite. So I knew as I was writing down that Thunder Rosa looks like a star, I was thinking in my head, oh, I bet they go to the back and it's going to be a Jade segment or a Baddie segment or a Stokely Hathaway segment, something to do with Jade. And sure enough, right on cue, Tony Schiavone's in the back with Stokely Hathaway. Pretty good promo here. Stokely Hathaway is very charismatic, very funny. He said Jade's going to have an open challenge on Rampage, and Stokely will also earn double his money that night by also being on commentary, and that was pretty funny. Willow Nightingale then interrupts him. By the way, Stokely Hathaway doesn't have the baddies or Jade with him, so just by himself here. And Stokely Hathaway sees Willow and thinks she wants to be a baddie and starts talking about that. But Willow Nightingale says no, she wants to challenge Jade. And I don't think it was ever said, but I'm assuming this will be a TBS title match. And Willow Nightingale, who we've seen, she got a big, she became almost a superstar in her debut match on AEW, where everybody wanted her to win, even though she lost. So Willow Nightingale will be the next challenge for Jade. I'm assuming Willow will end up losing, but should be a good match. And Willow also brings up that there is history between her and Stokely Hathaway. I don't know about this history, but Stokely Hathaway seems to not care about it, or not. He acted like he didn't really remember or care. So that'll be another match on Rampage. Looks like a pretty good Rampage overall. Hangman Adam Page is now next out to some big cheers. Pretty good reaction for Hangman Page. He says he gets in the ring. He said, well, like I said last week, I wanted Okada, but I didn't just want Okada. I wanted the IWGP World title, but now Okada is not champion, Hangman says. So Adam Cole now comes out. He congrats Switchblade Jay White on the big IWGP World Heavyweight title win. Adam Cole tells Page that Page won't be challenging for the IWGP title. Adam Cole, baby, will. And the Forbidden Door isn't about AEW or New Japan. It's about Undisputed Elite in the Bullet Club. So what better way to do that than have Undisputed Elite versus Bullet Club for the IWGP World title? And this is where some people might have missed this, but Cole drops, and maybe since Cole's a heel, he's lying, but I'm assuming he's not. Cole says Okada will not be at Forbidden Door, which is a little upsetting, but I'm sure we'll have a pretty stacked card regardless. And hopefully Okada can come to AEW at a separate date. Right as Cole tells us Okada won't be at Forbidden Door, Switchblade music's hit, Switchblade Jay White's music hits, the new IWGP World Champion, and then from behind on Hangman Page, Jay White hits the Blade Runner, which is the move that won him the title on Sunday. Jay White gets on the microphone now. He asks Hangman Page what makes him think that Hangman can call the shots. Last time that Jay White looked, Hangman Page lost to CM Punk. He lost the title. And oh yeah, you're 0-2 against me in singles matches. So I will not be defending this title against you, Hangman Page. And then Jay White looks up to Adam Cole and he says, I will not be defending this against you, Adam Cole, either, which is hilarious because Adam Cole then acts super surprised and shocked and upset. He's like, wait, what? Like, kind of deal. So Switchblade says this is the Switchblade era, or he actually says this is the Switchblade era. Unfortunately, botched his line there, but maybe people won't notice. And he doesn't name an opponent, so it sounds like Jay White will be defending his title at Forbidden Door. He doesn't name his opponent. I'm assuming it'll be a triple threat against Hangman Page and Adam Cole. But maybe it'll be something else. So we'll have to wait around and see what we find next week. I'm sure we'll get a lot more announcements next week's Dynamite as it pertains to Forbidden Door. And Cole is there on the ramp, shocked, but Jay White just walks right by him. So the ladder match main event, the tag team title ladder match main event, we're set is next, and we go to ad break. So it was 23 minutes when they told us the main event is next. Good reaction for both teams. They get a full entrance. Both teams are over, but it does kind of seem like Young Bucks are a little bit more over than the Jurassic Express. So when the bell rings, we've got 17 minutes left for this ladder match main event, which isn't too bad. If you remember, like the Adam Cole main event against Jeff Hardy was like 7 minutes when the bell rang. So 17 minutes, that's all right. That's a lot better than they have been doing. There's a good pace to this ladder match, but it doesn't seem super rushed like they were out of time, which is perfect. So it starts fast, and don't forget this is a ladder match for the AEW tag team titles. And this is where Excalibur spoils the ending for me, at least, because I've already picked up on the fact that if Excalibur starts spitting facts about a champion's reign when their title match starts, that will mean that champions are going to lose their titles. So I knew right here that the Young Bucks were going to be the new champions when Excalibur says, oh, this is the 8th defense for Jurassic Express. Something we were never told beforehand. Oh, this is the 6th defense. This is the 7th defense. But here's Excalibur. Oh, it's the 8th defense and a really good reign for Jurassic Express. So you knew exactly when he said that Jurassic Express were losing the titles. Excalibur needs to stop doing that. That's the second time he spoiled for me in the last month that there was a major title change. The other one being him running down all of Hangman Adam Page's stats right before he defended it against CM Punk. So if anyone knows Excalibur, please tell him to stop doing this or do the stats every time. If you're doing the stats every time, then it doesn't become a thing. But since you only do the stats when they're going to lose the title, it spoils the ending for a big title match. So that sucked. But I'm not quite here for title match. I don't necessarily, the winners and losers, now I'm at my advanced age of 36 and I've seen it all. And I had to live through the Cena Reign of Terror and all that. So I don't really value championships as much as a lot of other people. I don't even really value wins per se. I just want people to be treated with respect. I don't like when someone gets a squash match if they're good. Like if they are getting squashed, then just fire them and get them off your television. So other than like squash matches, I usually don't get upset about who the winner or loser is. I'm just here for the journey. I'm here to see if it's a good match. I'm here to see where the story goes, what kind of excitement we'll get, what kind of surprises. So I've kind of been jaded in my time, especially with watching a lot of WWE in my life. I've always watched the competition, but I've never been able to fully not watch WWE too because I'm a fan of wrestlers and not promotions. I'm the fan of watching a wrestler's progression from beginning to end more so than watching who the WWE heavyweight title champion is for a 20-year span. I'd rather see an individual wrestler. So eventually, almost every wrestler ends up going to WWE. I really hope AEW can really truly become big and stay big for the next uh, decades going forward, so that we don't run into that problem of everybody runs to WWE eventually. And we've already come into that where it seems like people like Jay White and the the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, for example, did never wanted to join WWE, which is why they part of the reason they wanted to form their own company. And so props to them. But anyway, this is a pretty good ladder match, even though it was spoiled for me by Excalibur. Titles are very high up when they first try to go up the ladders to it. The titles are super high up. So I took a mental note that they're gonna have to get a bigger ladder, and they do get a bigger ladder eventually. But yeah, this is a great match. Definitely go watch this match. It's definitely a Young Bucks ladder match, and Jurassic Express was able to hold up with the Young Bucks fairly decently, and it was just like we assumed a TLC match. Like Christian wasn't allowed to use the TLC match by name last week, but we all knew this was going to be a TLC match, and it was, or at least a TC match. I mean, a TL match. I didn't see any chairs, but the chairs are the least important part of a TLC match. What there was like tables set up all throughout the match before the bell even rang. So tables on the outside, I mean. So tables all throughout the outside, ladders everywhere, no chairs in sight, but who really needs the chairs in the TLC match? So we get a TL match here, and nasty, nasty hurricane at one point from Jungle Boy to Matt, who almost missed going through a table, but I'm sure it was Jungle Boy's fault, and Matt was able to adjust mid move to make sure he went through the table instead of landing straight on the mat, which would have hurt really bad. So, um, really fast paced action without being too rushed. Like I said, they had plenty of time here compared to Dynamite main events in the past few months. Great looking gold and white outfit on Luchasaurus. He looked like a mega star there. Jungle Boy with like a new leopard spot looking outfit. Um, Nick puts Jungle Boy through a table now after Matt went through a table, so Nick gets the advantage a little bit here, and Nick puts Luchasaurus on a table at a point right after that, and a 450 splash from the top of the rope to the outside through a table. So that takes us into our only pitcher break, and great action even in the pitcher break. So by the time we return, all hell is just breaking loose. Like everybody's on their feet in the crowd, and everybody's back in the ring and just doing crazy stuff. We get told next week on Dynamite it's going to be Orange Cassidy and Roppongi Vice. That's Trent Beretta and Rocky Romero. They'll team up to go against Aussie Open, who we saw in last week's Dynamite, and they were very impressive. Part of the United Empire. Aussie Open will team up with Will Osprey. So Will Osprey will return for the next week's Dynamite, and this will be an all chaos versus all United Empire match for you New Japan fans. All four men are now on the ladders fighting. Eventually, Luchasaurus is the only remaining on the ladder, but the Young Bucks quickly get up and double power bomb him, not through a ladder but into a ladder, and Luchasaurus hits the back of his head on that ladder pretty hard. Excuse me. Any week now, these allergies are gonna go away. They take out Jungle Boy 2 right after the Luchasaurus into the ladder, so it's looking pretty Young Bucks here. Diving elbow from the top to by Matt to Luchasaurus through a table, so it's really looking good here. Jungle Boy's trying to fight back, but there's a BT trigger on top of the ladders attempt, which I don't know how that would have went, but we'll never know because Jungle Boy counters. And this is when they tell us Osprey versus Cassidy for the U.S. title, which I'm not looking forward to, is at Forbidden Door. And as well at Forbidden Door, it'll be Thunder Rosa and Tony Storm. So they tell us a bunch of information while all this hell is breaking loose, which wasn't a good look. Again, a lot of people's complaint for people that aren't hardcore wrestling fans is that there's way too much information for them to absorb every Dynamite, and this is another example of um, them telling us big time matches that we didn't know beforehand for the pay per view, while all this craziness is happening in the main event for a different title. So, not good time management there. They could have said that somewhere else. Luchasaurus from the ladder now goes um, off the ladder through 4 different tables that are on the outside. So this match is a spot fest, crazy hardcore match. Not for everyone, but is exciting nonetheless. For me, it's nowhere near as good as Dax Harwood versus Will Osprey. That's the kind of wrestling I like to watch. But this having a match like this every now and then is pretty good. But what AEW ends up doing is they have matches like this too often. So really good ladder match here, but I would say AEW does matches like this a little too often for it to be. It's the whole law of diminishing values, and the more you see something, the less effective it is. So hopefully, a little bit of time can go by now without us seeing like a spot fest hardcore match like this. And not to say that this match was bad whatsoever. This match was great. Um, but eventually, like I said, Luchasaurus has now gone through those 4 tables on the outside. BT triggered to Jungle Boy, and both Young Bucks quickly climb up the ladder. They both take a title. The crowd's really into it. The crowd likes the Young Bucks winning. Nick's got blood all over his mouth here, so it's a good look while they're on the ladder. Bloody mouth, holding up the titles, everybody cheering. And yeah, like I said, Excalibur completely spoiled this match yet again. He needs to stop doing that with the stats about title matches. And Christian now makes an appearance. So Christian, if you don't know, he's the same Christian from Edge and Christian fame. He's the manager of Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy, Jurassic Express. So Christian comes out for the first time all night. Looks genuinely concerned about Luchasaurus. Who's still going through those 4 tables, maybe not even selling. It looked pretty painful, but Christian's concerned look on his face, so you know what was happening next. They've been teasing it for months. Christian goes in the ring where Jungle Boy is. He helps him up, and but of course turns on him. Kill switch to Jungle Boy. Christian Cage has turned heel. The crowd boos him big time. Christian has that look in his eyes that Edge has as well sometimes when he snaps. And Christian goes over, grabs 2 chairs. One man can chair to the Jungle Boy, and we go off the air with big heel heat to Christian. Uh, really good ending here. Great show again. They delivered it on paper. It looked amazing, and they delivered the few things I didn't like throughout the night, such as I'm already bored with Warburg, and I'm not looking forward to Will Ospreay versus Orange Cassidy whatsoever. But maybe Orange Cassidy can surprise me. But a lot of other good things are amazing. It was great to see Tanahashi in a good segment tonight. Wish he was able to talk. I've heard his English isn't that bad, so I would have let him talk, and maybe we'll get to hear him talk a little more before the event, before the big Forbidden Door pay per view. So maybe we'll see. Nothing confirmed about if Tanahashi will be there next week or anything. But I would love to see Tanahashi in a match on Rampage or Dynamite before the Moxley match. And good stuff overall tonight. We had the big Sammy Guevara turning heel officially, even though it seems like he's turned heel 4 times in the last 2 months. But officially getting back together with Jericho, joining the Jericho Appreciation Society with Ty Conti, which I didn't mention earlier. When they came back out, Jericho said Jericho, Sammy, and Ty they trace sex gods, and then uh, not everybody starts making out, but just Sammy and Ty. But boy, that would have been interesting if it was a 3-person make out. But anyway, yeah, good stuff overall tonight. And go make sure you go watch that Dax versus Will Ospreay match. I wasn't able to describe nearly how good that was. Usually, whenever I get to a match like that, I don't even want to take very much notes. I just want my notes is go watch this match. Highly recommend that match. If you like your spot fest hardcore matches, definitely watch the main event. And go watch the big segment with Hangman and Jay White and Adam Cole. That was a great segment. I'm looking forward to Rampage. Has a pretty good lineup. We got Dante Martin versus John Moxley. We've got Willow Nightingale versus Jade Cargill, which I'm assuming is for the title. And I think they also said another match, but I'm not quite sure for Rampage. But it looks to be a good one. I'm sure we'll see something with Hook and Danhausen. And next week we'll also see the big Pentagon versus Malachi Black match to see who goes into the Fatal 4-Way. So again, I will be um I will be covering all three of the New Japan shows. There's one on Saturday, there's one on Monday, and one on Tuesday. I'll be reviewing those and letting you know what happens and all the stuff that pertains to AEW that happens in New Japan. I will also be back, probably take tomorrow off, but I have my big weekly Wonderful Wrestling podcast where I'll be covering SmackDown, NXT UK, Impact, NXT Level Up, and Rampage. So all five of those shows will be covered on Friday night, right after Dynamite ends. And I'm assuming Dynamite's on at its normal time. If not, it'll be on right after SmackDown. So I'll be back Friday night, and I'll try. I'm getting but you can. I've got an entire year of WWE 2K Universe mode up, and those streams are really good. This time, it's probably the most in depth NXT in all of Universe mode. I've got a really in depth all the Performance Center players and all that. So. If you're into that, I will be eventually doing an AEW version of Universe Mode streams. So I'll make sure that's just as in depth as the one I'm doing now. Before I do AEW, I will probably do an All Star Women's World version. I have as many of the top 100 women in there as I can, as well as most of the AEW entire division, all fighting in the same company as all the women from WWE, NWA, and as many Stardom and Joshi Pro wrestlers as I can fit with my allowance. So keep on the channel for all of that. Like I should be back with streams of WWE 2K tonight or tomorrow, and I'll be back on Friday night with a review with my with the flagship show, the Wonderful Wrestling Podcast, covering everything that happens in the next 2 days and a preview of next week. And I'll also, like, for you AEW fans, let you know my thoughts on Rampage. So looks to be a good Rampage. It was an amazing Dynamite tonight from beginning to end. It went by really fast. So 2 thumbs up from me, and I will talk to you guys soon. Thanks for tuning in.